What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unstoppable Library. My name is Robbie Jenkins, and this is Christopher Moreno. So our goal with this show and company is to introduce you to the ideas, products, and people that will help you become unstoppable in your life and in business. So today we have a great conversation. I'm super excited for this topic of fear, right? Fear, it's an eerie time right now, the coronavirus, all of these things are happening in the world. And I think that, touching on this subject is huge. So yeah, did you want to
Awesome.
off?
Yeah, let's start, man. I know when we were just talking right now, we were talking about fear and you run in and the things we don't want to do. I think we kind of make excuses for ourselves. So tell me about your scenario. We were just talking about it. It's a simple task of what?
Running. I mean, I don't know, now that you kind of questioned me on it, and I think I am maybe retracting my statement, but there's a lot of times we do complain, we do not want to do something because we're scared of doing it, not because we don't want to do it.
Right.
Or I don't know if that kind of makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
We're like, oh, I don't want to do it, but in reality, it's because we're fearful. So one of the things that it was scary for me at first was running through the night. For like my ultra races, I was like, I didn't even practice it. I just went out there and did it for the 60. It wasn't that far into the night, but I literally ran it faster because I was scared of running through the night by myself. Like
Right.
You're literally out there by yourself. It's super eerie. You can't see anything. You have a headlamp on. You don't see people for miles.
Right.
And then, you start, getting used to it. But yeah,
I think we get in our own head, man. Thinking about that, whenever you're fearful, you dirt bike ride, right? Yeah. When you start thinking about what you're doing and you get in your own head, you're fearful, right? When you consume yourself with excitement or whatever it is, and you're not thinking about the fearful side of something
or the negative side effects.
We went off-roading. You went up a mountain of a mountain, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing maybe all the way up until, I don't know if you got nervous. Were you nervous going up to it?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I hit a couple big rocks and it like put me on the back wheel while I was still climbing.
Right.
And I was like, oh.
So at one point you were fearful of that hill.
Yeah.
And what do we do? Repetition, right? You're freaking bad on a dirt bike, right? Pop wheelies.
I'm okay.
No, dude, you're pretty bad. I've seen you ride compared to people I know. So my thing is, and I've never thought about it this way, we're fearful of something because we haven't done it or done it enough times.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not fearful of working out, but I get in my own mind because I'm lazy or I got something else or I'm tired, whatever it is. So I think if we do whatever you're fearful of, when you do it enough times, there's a new precedent of what the fear is.
Yeah. So going back to that thing that I watched today with Jay Shetty, he was talking about fear and stepping into it. And then he was also talking about how the majority of the times when we're fearful, it's because we're in fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's why we're fearful. And he was like, as soon as you start like diving into it and learning more about it, right, you start understanding that it's really not as bad as you think.
Right.
Like when I started running through the night, right, I realized, oh, wow, it's not as bad as I think. I just prevented myself from doing it. And I could have, been running ultra races, doing all these things that, would have, helped me in my life.
Right.
But that one, fearful thought of like, what if a bear comes out while I'm running or whatever, was limiting me from actually achieving those goals that I wanted.
Right. And what most people do is when you are fearful, we retract, right? But if you create awareness around when you are fearful, not saying I shouldn't be fearful, but when you recognize you're fearful, then you could say, okay, I'm going to address this. I'm going to get through that fear. You know what I mean? Like you said, you're scared of the bear going to get you when you're running through the forest, right? We literally, us as humans, we think of the situation that, in my experience, 9 times out of 10 does not happen. We think of the bear, bro. Like the likelihood of you getting attacked by a bear was maybe low at that time, but it didn't happen. And you're gonna do it again, and it could not happen. But in conversations, I can't tell you how many times it happens with me. I do loans. I don't want to call a realtor. I'm scared to call the client. And I have this made up situation of what they're going to say, how they're going to react. And it never goes exactly like that.
No.
It could go similar, but we automatically think of the worst situation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen, man. So I think we have way more control of it than what we give ourselves credit for.
And I think this though also stems back from when you were a child and how you were taught growing up, the people around you. Were your parents fearful? Were your, you know what I mean? And I feel like I grew up and I was always on defense mode, you know, like I was always taught, like when I'm driving, to always think someone's going to cut out in front of you. And, you know, I think in some situations it's helpful, right? But then you start doing that. Now I'm doing that when I'm driving. Now I'm doing that with my business, with the decisions I'm making, which that is when it becomes negative, right? That's when it starts limiting me or yourself or whatever. And I think that, like, just from being around you, like, I feel like you weren't really like that when you were younger. You were always optimistic. You didn't think about the negatives as much as I probably did.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, it helps obviously as you're getting older.
I think great point with when you're growing up. If you have dealt with a lot of adversity, no matter what it is, falling off your bike a million times or never learning to ride a bike, right? There's this different type of fear. That's what I think what's to a certain extent is going to be difficult for some of our younger generation. As funny as it seems, I was talking to my buddy the other day. I went outside and played. I tried to build a go-kart. I crashed on bicycles multiple times.
Yeah.
Kids don't do that anymore, right?
It's crazy.
Most everybody's playing games all the time. Like, that doesn't teach you adversity. It doesn't teach you to get hurt. It doesn't teach you, like, oh, I fell down and I broke my you know, adversity. I put a hole in my tire. Let me go fix my flat. Like, there's this sense of fear because going back to it, like, the people didn't go through a lot when they're younger. I appreciate, you know, the things I went through. I appreciate me mowing lawns to then have to go buy some shoes down the street, you know, and pay less, you know, when that was open or whatever. So I think a lot of it comes down to experience when we're younger, and the less experience you have, the more fearful you're going to be of a lot more
growing
things.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or in your adulthood, or, you know.
How does your fear, in regards to fear, how is your fear in relation to coronavirus, the pandemic, and everything?
I mean, I'm not fearful really at
Were you
all.
fearful in the beginning?
A little bit, not really. Like, I just think the idea, like, as soon as I started, like, learning about it, understanding that, like, even these simple masks, like, they don't prevent the virus from getting through the mask. Like, so, like, I just familiarizing myself with the material, with the virus, with, you know, the knowledge and stuff that was out there. I really wasn't that fearful for it because I feel like I take care of myself. I'm, you know, a pretty healthy person. I was never scared of the actual, you know, like, flu, right? Like, I never got the flu shot, never really got the flu. People around me always got the flu. I never really got the flu. So I was just like, it's not going to happen to me. And if it does, it's probably going to be mild anyways, and I'll be able to survive.
Yeah.
Now I do have a girlfriend that works in the hospitals. So she was coming home every day, like, saying how many people were dying, like, crazy stories that were happening within her hospital. And that was like, okay, well, it's actually real. Like, a lot of people are downplaying it. It is real. People do die from it. People die from it that I guess, obviously the statistics have came out that the majority of people have comorbidities that are some sort of underlying, you know, illness that they had prior, and then the coronavirus, like, was, you know, their final match, I guess.
Was your girlfriend scared initially?
Oh yeah. I mean, just because she was dealing with those patients, right? And one instance, the person will be fine, right? Will be healthy, and then, you know, an hour later, they'll be dying, and she needs to call in help, and she's seeing people dying, you know. So it was real, and she was, like, coming home, you know, crying about work and all this stuff, and I mean, it made me a little fearful, but not even that much. Like, I wasn't scared of getting the coronavirus from her because she was, you know, being kind of exposed to it. They were taking their precautions. I know my girlfriend's, you know, healthy. She's, you know, sanitized as well. And, takes care of herself as well. And she's been tested. She hasn't got it. So, I mean,
is she still as fearful?
Yeah. A little bit. Not
Okay,
really.
let's
I mean,
say
she wears mask and stuff
everywhere.
But
Is she one of the mask drivers?
no, definitely not.
Okay.
That's just that's crazy. What I just want to say, like, what is a mask while you're driving on the inside of your, like, you know what I mean? It's like you being in your home with wearing a mask.
I don't get me started, bro.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm the guy that gets in trouble. Like, you know what I mean? So back to this, an experience and how many times you ran through the forest. What would you say on a scale from 1 to 10, her fear was when it first came out and she was seeing people?
Maxed out. I don't know.
10.
8, 10.
8 to 10. What is it now?
5 or less.
So the more times we put ourselves in the fearful situation, it lessens.
Yeah.
Right? Think of the thing you're most fearful of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what it is. For me, sometimes, with business, running out of money, dude, like, I've had to borrow money from people, you know what I mean? But it's not, for me, it's simple. It's not life or death. And COVID was life or death for some people.
Yeah.
But when you put yourself in that situation enough times, it becomes the new norm.
Yeah.
Right? The next pandemic that comes, your girl's not going to be as scared, bro.
Yeah.
Because she already went through a pandemic. I don't remember any of my family members or parents gone through a full-on pandemic. But case in point, when you push yourself, when you are fearful, if you reframe your mind and label it that, okay, I'm fearful, address your fear, but if you push through it, there's going to be a new limit for fear.
On the other side of that is growth.
Right.
On the other side of that is becoming unstoppable.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, if you go through these adversities, like, it makes you better. So every time you're in a tough situation, using, like, for me at least, that's what I do. Like, I'm going to get better from this. Like, when I have to deal with or make a phone call that I don't want to make, I pretty much say, what am I going to learn from this after? Like, try to already have that in my mind so that I'm more at ease going through that situation. Like, if it goes well, then great. And if it goes bad, then great, because I'm going to learn something from it.
Yeah.
Right.
When's the last time or do you remember the last event, or what comes to mind first when you think of the thing that you were most fearful of in the last 3, 4, 5 years? Like you remember you were freaking fearful, like, and scared, fearful, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think the coronavirus, to be honest, like,
really?
Yeah. Like, for my business, like, out of nowhere, like, we had a bunch of good deals ready, like, in the pipeline, like a lot of money that we could have made. And out of nowhere, everyone pulled them, like, overnight. Nothing was everyone put everything on hold. And it was like, oh, okay, what am I going to do now? Yeah. Right. So that was when I was in the fear mode. And this is what I wanted to kind of touch on. I'm glad you asked that question, is because it's funny, like, you can't stay in that fear mode for that long. There's a point where you have to make a switch and go into, like, attack mode, or, like, progress. Like, you have to make progress.
Well, it affects your decision making.
Yeah.
If you're in fear mode, you are going to make a different decision.
100%.
You know what I mean?
And if I'm in growth mode, or if I'm, like, trying to be opportunity mode, like, where, like, instead of being fearful, oh wow, all of this stuff is happening, I could have, which it took me a couple weeks in order to figure this out. I was like, okay, well, what can I actually sat down and asked myself those questions? Like, okay, well, what do people need right now? And then I saw an email come across my desk, and it was hand sanitizers. And then I started selling hand sanitizers, masks, and it opened up a new door. Everyone's still fearful, and I'm going to work every day like I want to sell these masks, hand sanitizers, whatever I can, right? And I was in opportunity mode, right? So it's crazy.
Were you fearful when your order didn't come through? Because you had a backed up order. You jumped on the hand sanitizer train very, very early.
Oh my God.
I bought some, branded, everything. You went hard. And
well, that was my fear.
I would be fearful. That's my version of that, is when I got to call someone and tell them, hey, you're not going to close today, or docs didn't come out today. But before you answer that, this is a slightly different topic. But when COVID hit and you didn't make that money and they pulled their orders, did you tell yourself or anybody else or phrase it that I lost money?
Probably. Yeah. I always
hate when people say that.
I talk in that
because you didn't lose money, because it happens all the time with a deal. If a deal falls out of escrow, I didn't lose money. I didn't make it.
You didn't make it.
Right? If you lose money, you invest in something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to fear and kind of addressing it. I didn't lose, like really dialing down, like you said. If I didn't try to stop you and say, bro, it's not about literally the coyotes where you live making you stop running, you would have gone and believed that. But I said, no, it's not really coyotes, bro. Like you can deal with some coyotes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or equip yourself. Yeah. If you're fearful and you know it's a coyotes, you're being a sissy by not equipping yourself with coyote repellent, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we make the excuse and say, you know what? I'm not going to go run because I'm scared of coyotes. F that. Get what you need to get the coyotes away. And we don't do that because it's
We're not thinking of the opportunity. Like, where's the opportunity, or where is the solution to this problem?
Yeah.
Right? Versus being scared and not really asking those questions for that to come up.
Yeah.
Right. I wanted to
go ahead.
Talk about that because I just envy you for framing things very well, because you do. Like I feel like you've told me that, like, you didn't lose money, you just didn't make that money. And I just like, wow, I need to, before I speak, I just need to think about what I'm going to say.
All do.
Yeah, because I say it and it's in my program to just say it in a negative way sometimes.
Yeah.
And I constantly catch myself. So yeah, just thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
We all do it, man. You know, it's people checking me or me going through a lot. You know what I mean? Like we talked about in our first episode, that I have the ability to sometimes recognize it. It's not as often as it should be, but I try to reframe it. I try not to talk about that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And say I didn't. You know, it took me saying all the time, "Oh, I lost money. I lost money." No, I didn't lose money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you see it as, if you keep being that fearful person, you're going to stop. But if you keep being optimistic, like you'll probably come through. Yeah. Right. It might take you longer than the next person.
And so actually I wanted to touch on this. We're going to be coming out with an apparel line, and it's going to be called the Reframe Series. And it's going to have quotes and stuff like we're talking about, is just to reprogram your mind into saying things that are positive versus the negative. You know, I can versus I can't, right? I never say I can't, ever. Like that should be eliminated from your vocabulary, you know?
I remember when I was a kid, I went to this, it's funny.
I can't, you just haven't figured out a way.
Yeah. Well, you know what's important for that too is when you are being negative or you're being a little, you know what, having people around you that have the, you know what, to check you, right? When you have good people around you, or people that want the best, or that have gone through similar stuff, or that are good people that want the best, they'll call you out on it. You know what I mean? And if you don't have anybody around, you need to find someone, because we will constantly tell ourselves the negativity, the fearful,
Well, I think you have to take it upon yourself too, because there's so many times where people just get offended by you trying to correct them. And I used to be that way, man. Like anytime someone would correct my grammar, because I already told you I was terrible at school. I cheated my way through, and I didn't really learn proper grammar. I just write it how I thought, and that was it. I didn't really care. And people check me on my grammar and I get mad. I don't care.
How about this? Thinking back then, were you fearful of something, of them knowing, oh man, I don't seem that smart?
I didn't even care.
It was no fear.
There's no fear.
You just got mad at them for calling you out.
Yeah, but
no fear. Like, dude, I look dumb. I feel dumb. Nothing.
Maybe
I would think logically.
Feel dumb. Yeah, probably. Okay. But yeah, going back to that, just be open to it. You know what I mean? And I love when, like, I even tell my girlfriend and even you, like, I love when you call me out and say that stuff. Like, it helps me get better. It helps me, change my, thought process.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to touch back on that, the hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Because that, going back to our topic of fear, like, before I even decided to send an email blast out, to send the pricing out for hand sanitizers, for masks, and all that stuff, that's what was going through my head. Because like I've used this vendor before in the past, they've done great work, and I was like they were the first one to send it out. I never saw anything before this, and I was like, well, what if I send it and it can't be delivered on? It's gonna look bad for me. All the fear things were going through my mind, and I was like, well, it's either my final thought was, it's either I sell it and it works and I make a lot of money doing it, or I don't sell it and I'm still in the same situation. And I was like, what do I have to lose? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's just, for me, I start realizing money is just money. Like, it's going to come, it's going to go. And you can't.
So what happened when it came true?
Yeah.
How'd you address it? What'd you do?
Because everything that I thought was going to happen, or that all the negative things that I thought were going to happen actually happened.
Okay.
And yeah, I just hit it head on, man. Like, just.
So when you had to call that first client, because obviously I was one of those clients, banking on it, going to give it out to people, you know, everybody wanted it. There was a shortage.
Yeah.
How did you deal with it? Were you fearful to make calls? Like, because you were weeks, maybe a month and a half behind. Like,
well, the problem was I just didn't, like, the shipping companies were so impacted by everything that was going on. They weren't even getting back to me. So I didn't even have any answer. So I'm trying to forecast what's going to happen and give an honest date, but you know what I mean? So it was just tough. Like, I was scared of making those calls, but I knew it had to be done. And I did know that everyone else was going through it as well. So that kind of helped the situation, meaning like they could have gone and bought it somewhere else, but the same situation would have happened. And I knew that because I was online. I eliminated that fear, because every morning I would wake up and I would call every single one of my vendors to see what the stock was, to see if there was anything in stock, was anything coming, when it would arrive, yada, yada, right?
How'd it go with your clients? Did you lose any clients over it?
A few, probably 2 or 3, nothing crazy, but I had a lot of orders for it. So, I think it was definitely worth it. But yeah, I mean, I'm still giving discounts and stuff to clients, to
make up for it.
Yeah, make up for it. But yeah, it was, I guess, a gamble, but yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Like,
what about for you? Like, you having a lot of people, right? And all of this stuff happening, like things were getting shut down. What did you do? What was it? Fear?
So
were you scared at all?
I wasn't, which is weird. I tell people sometimes I should be more fearful.
Yeah.
Right. Starting the More group, like I've told people, like, if I sell my house, I sell my house. If I lose my house, I'm not scared of that, because it's really simple for me. It's life or death. If it's leaning towards the death side, that's when I'm going to have some fear.
Yeah.
And not fear in the bad way, but I don't want to die. I feel I have a lot to accomplish. So when it hit, everybody's obviously thinking we're going to get laid off, right? We're thinking videography, photography, like what's going to happen. Open houses stopped.
Yeah.
And I started immediately trying to think, okay, what can we do? Right. One of my clients, he's like, hey, dude, this is going to be around for a long time. My son's a doctor. He's a surgeon. You better do this. This is literally what he told me. When you're used to hunting buffalo and everything like that, you better start learning how to hunt squirrels. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because if that's what it came down to, and nobody was going to refi or buy, and we didn't see it, then I got to figure out something. So I was talking, and I went into the mode of like, okay, so hey, Conrad, like, what are we going to do, dude? So, like, we might have to help people modify their mortgages or anything like that. I charge them very small. Right. Yeah. Charge them $1,500, $1,000 if they can afford it, to help them get into a better program. I was already thinking that way. Mm-hmm. We let the team know, and I think I spoke to our corporate office and said, listen, we're not going to lay off anybody. Like, we're going to get through this. We're going to try to do anything we can.
Yeah.
And I kind of let the dust settle and everything like that. And our services were more in need, because now they needed our photography more and our videography. You know what I mean? But where my lack of fear came into as unempathetic is I wasn't out in the field, and our videographers and photographers were, and they were fearful because they were in people's houses right when the COVID hit. Yeah. So I wasn't fearful on behalf of them, which I had to learn and say, okay, cool. Like, I'm taking this seriously. But I wasn't fearful. And sometimes I feel like maybe I should be more, but because COVID for people was life or death. But for me personally, if I decide and consciously start to be fearful, I think it's going to mess with me and the way I operate on a daily basis, because I feel that I have the ability to influence people. And I have the ability to, I think I'm in a leadership role. And if I have that fear, then
It's going to trickle down.
For sure. Like imagine whatever happened.
Being scared.
Yeah. Imagine if your parents, when you got hurt, they were just as scared as you, dude. Right?
Yeah.
If you're just as scared as you when you freaking got a scrape and you're panicking like they are as a child, you think you're going to freak out some more, right? So I know and I realize that I can't go there and I don't want to, but I need to be understanding of when people are, right? So I've learned to be, before, bro, I was like just rude about it. Like, you know what I mean? I would make people feel a certain way when they weren't the way I was, you know? So I've learned to address fear in a positive manner, recognize it, but it's not fear for me. It's something else. I don't know. I'd probably call it a different term when fear is around.
Do you have anyone in your life that pushes you to not be fearful, to be more courageous, to like be that way? I'm just curious. Like, were your parents like that?
I'd say my dad's less fearful. You know, I'm Conrad, Matt, my partners, having those good people around me, my girlfriend, have empowered me to not be fearful. Even when they are, you get to talk through the fear. Yeah. What's the worst thing that can happen? One thing that I've learned is if you're okay, and remember, outside of death, if you're okay with the worst thing that can happen, then so be it, right? Exactly. I'm okay with that. Case in point, we had a bad deal, a bad escrow, bro. And my branch manager was like, dude, this is bad. Like, I messed up. We all messed up. Like, whether we could have caught it or not, and I don't think we could have. It was about to mess up some relationships. And my branch manager, my buddy, he's like, dude, we might lose this account. I said, cool, man. And he was very much so worried. And I said, cool. And we've worked with this account for 3-4 years, and it's a big account for us. We generate some revenue from it. And I told him, listen, if we lose the account, who cares, dude? I really don't care. If we lose it based on this, cool, I understand. Now they don't see our value. If they're going to judge me off of one thing, cool, that's on them. I realized what my value was. And when I didn't know what my value was, I didn't think I can go get another account. If this was my only account, then it's like, oh my God, I can't lose it. Like, I'm scared too. If I knew I can pick up another account and I was confident enough, and maybe I couldn't, but maybe I was confident enough I could, I told him, dude, it's cool. If we lose this account, we'll figure out another. We'll get another one, dude. Yeah. And now, whether I was fearful or not, I was okay with the worst outcome. We lose the entire account of 100 agents that we get business from. We're out. You know what I mean? We could rebuild it.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing is just really assessing the worst case scenario, realizing that it's not as bad as you think, and pushing through, because at the end of, pushing through to the other side, pushing past your fears is either success or learning. Right. It's never really fail. Like, I mean, you could label it failure if you want, but at the end of the day, you're going to learn something. Yeah. And if it's going to help you, in the future, later in life, then you should do it. Yeah.
And here's what it did. It strengthened one of my relationships, and it hurt one of the other relationships because there was 2 realtors involved. And one realtor, it strengthened it. Man, you came through. It was tough. Great job. We got it closed because it was about the clients, bro. And the other agent never wants to work with me again. That's okay. I messed up. It was my fault. If you give me another chance, I know I did my best, and I know I closed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Legitimately, people may not believe me ever, bro, but legitimately on that deal, I literally lost. We talk about lost and didn't make. I lost $16,000 for the client to close because there was more on the line. It wasn't about my commission. I thought to myself it was more about the 2 agents' commission, more importantly, the seller and the buyer. There were a lot of people involved with their livelihoods. You know what I mean? So, I literally lost $16,000, but there was way more to it. And it was a positive to it, and there was a negative.
Yeah. And the person that never is going to do business with you again doesn't see that.
Right. And I probably wouldn't have wanted to do business with them.
Yeah.
Right. Because if
of the way that they, reacted.
It could have, that would have come out in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. In a different part of the relationship.
It's funny, like those fallouts, sometimes sometimes it shows you the true colors, you know what I mean? It's sometimes good. Right. Because now you said it could have been a worse situation down the road. But you found out, and yeah.
So you got to learn to embrace it, man. You've got to You've got to face
step into it.
Step into it. Like you said with Jay Shetty thing, stepping into it is huge because you're either going to step in or you're going to step away.
Yeah.
And I think...
And stepping away typically leads to more negative circumstances or, outcomes, right?
Worse decisions, I think.
Yeah. Like I just think it's funny because if we were never stepped into our fear as business owners, right, we would always be in the same situation. We would never grow our companies. We would, you know what I mean? There'd be no growth.
Were you fearful of doing this Unstoppable Library?
Hell yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Just because I think the number one reason is the time commitment. Fearful that I didn't have enough time, which that's an illusion. Fearful that people are not going to watch it. Fearful that I don't know anything about audio, don't know anything about video, and I have to learn it, right? And that's going to, suck more of my time. But I do think that it's important for me because I feel like I've noticed something within my life and within the way I want to operate my life that pretty much like living a life trying to be, I guess, the best at something, I just seems for me very selfish. I envy the people that do it, right? It takes a lot of hard work. It's entertaining, right? We wouldn't have LeBron James. We wouldn't have these successful people if it wasn't for people having that pursuit, very disciplined pursuit for themselves, for their team or, whatever.
Right.
But that's why I always say, like, I'm the jack of all trades. I enjoy doing all these other things, and I don't want to be the richest guy in the graveyard, or I don't want to be the best at one thing because I feel like it's just so narrow and so, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's for myself versus for others. And I know that that's a very lonely journey and possibly unfulfilled. I don't know. You know what I mean? I haven't had that pursuit, so I can't speak on those that are doing it. But for myself, at least, I could speak that it wouldn't be as fulfilling.
Yeah.
So I think this is more or less for other people. We're not trying to get rich with this. You know what I mean? It's a passion project to share knowledge, to educate people, because I was in that bucket, man. Like I was so in that bucket, so closed-minded, didn't want to listen to anyone. Every time someone would give me criticism or were trying to help me, I would think they're attacking me, and I would be in defense mode and be angry and be pissed off. And as soon as I started stepping into the unknown, stepping into the things that I was fearful of or avoiding, right? Because typically the things you're avoiding you're probably fearful of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like my life has changed a lot. So,
I think if you get defensive like that, I think there's probably some form of fear behind it.
100%.
There's got to be some vulnerability.
Your fear of someone making you look like an idiot or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get defensive because like if you weren't scared of what people thought of you,
100%.
Then
I was gonna say, yeah.
You know what I mean? If you weren't scared of what people thought of you, then you wouldn't think twice of the comment that someone made. It wouldn't hurt your feelings because you don't care.
Yeah, you wouldn't think twice about posting that post.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think twice about doing a podcast. My fear was, are people going to listen to it? Like, is it value?
Yeah.
All we need is value. For me personally, all I need is to be valuable for one person. They take away something. That, man, these dudes went through some stuff, or this is real. Like, there's some real stuff that we've had to go through with being younger and trying to be the best at what we're.
I think shedding the light, knowing that something that's helped me like be less fearful as well, is that essentially, like, all of us complain, man. We all like, oh, why is this happening? Whatever. And at the end of the day, there's a million other people that have probably gone through the same situation, if not worse situations. And it's like, you're the one complaining. You're the one thinking that, oh, I'm the only one. I have a very special circumstance. It's not the case, man.
Yeah. Yeah. You really gotta realize when you're fearful and just, like you said, bro, step into it. That Jay Shetty thing was money.
I love it.
And hopefully people decide, and their awareness is there, that they decide to step into this stuff.
He used an example too, because I guess he was late for that podcast or episode, and he goes, I I was like scared, like, oh, well, what is the team going to think of me? Like I'm late. They're waiting, longer. They're relying, or all these,
this guy's going to get mad at me.
This guy's going to get mad at me. Scared of the outcome of that. And he was like, you know what? The best thing I could do right now is call him and
be honest.
That's the only thing I can do, and the best thing I could do.
Yeah.
So you might as well do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I just said, going back now to business, right? And the decision to sell mask hand sanitizers, right? My thought process was, I'm going to be in this current situation. I'm still going to be fearful, or I'm going to step into that fear of the unknown and do it anyways.
Yeah.
And, hopefully the outcome, comes out good.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway from this, bro, is when you're fearful of something, is making sure that you keep doing that over and over and over again. The next time you're fearful of something,
yeah,
no matter what it is, recognize it, attack it to the best of your ability. Let's say you're running, you see a coyote, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? You see a coyote again, right? You keep running away, but you keep running, knowing that there's some fear that's going to be on that path. And then hopefully you can equip yourself with something for those coyotes there.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm going to think of next time when I'm fearful of something, that, all right, dude, I've got to do this another 15 more times, and I'm not going to be fearful of this thing.
Exactly.
Right now. You know what I mean?
No, I feel like I have the same takeaway. And it's something that intuitively, like, that you should be attacking these fears, but no one's sitting there telling you to attack them. No, you know what I mean? And I just think that for myself, like, I definitely, anytime I'm fearful of something, as long as it's not going to kill me, you know what I mean? It's not life or death, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Just to push past that. That way, the next time the fearful thought comes in, it's already being overridden with a program that I've created through all this repetition and habit.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to close it out?
Cool, man. I appreciate it. Well, guys, thank you for watching episode number 2.
Number 2.
We're going to get to hundreds on this, bro.
We're on a roll.
No fear.
We're on a roll.
Be unstoppable. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. Hopefully it has helped. We'll have some more episodes, obviously, and we'll have some more content, get some more people on the show as well. But once again, thank you. Be unstoppable.
Don't forget to subscribe and check out our website. Look at the gear that we have on there. We have shirts, hats, mugs, posters, you name it. Free wallpapers for your phone to help you become unstoppable in your life. Subscribe, and we will see you on another episode.
Be unstoppable.